All right, welcome back to the Artist Connection podcast. This is Matt Kasar here with my special guest, guitarist Jesse Gress. Welcome, sir.
Howdy doody.
So, local guy, before we hit record, we were just commiserating over our shared background here in the Lehigh Valley area of Pennsylvania.
Fountain Hill.
Absolutely, yeah.
Fountain Hill, born and raised in Fountain Hill. My dad was, prominent pediatrician in town of one of like three, so he took care of like everybody's kids. And boy, that was back in the days of like bartering. I know he had a lot of patients who struggled with paying their bills and stuff, so he found other ways to get paid for his services and bartering and different service trades and stuff like that. But that was a whole different era.
Yeah, you don't see much of that anymore, do you?
Yeah, he wanted to have a house call wagon at one point. He started in the golden age of medicine, where he wanted to actually start like a mobile house call office,
Wow.
like an RV or something, but never panned out. He ended up opening an office over in one of the first professional buildings on Elizabeth Avenue, and then he practiced there for 35 years. So I'm way familiar with town. Grew up down there by the railroad tracks, Fountain Hill, Delaware Avenue.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, this is my place, born and raised, and it's interesting over time. I know you moved out, and you said you come back from time to time, but is it interesting for you how things change?
I come to the dentist.
You come to the dentist, yeah.
It's a good excuse to come down. I don't have a lot of family there to see anymore, so I make a dental appointment and come down and stock up on cheesesteaks and pizza hot dogs, nipples and nut rolls and all that good regional stuff that you can't get anywhere else.
How does it feel when you come back? Do you notice a change each time? It feels like the area is really blowing up.
That big monstrosity on the south side there that took over the steel is pretty amazing, I guess. I haven't really been in there, but just to see the giant sand sign on the crane is pretty weird.
It is weird, yeah.
But I guess it's brought a lot. It's probably been good for business. I hope so. Town essentially looks the same to me.
Yeah.
All the good record stores and music shops are gone, long gone. Kempfer's Music.
Oh, I know it well.
Where I got my first guitar, I think, at Kempfer's Music.
I was a Hawks music man myself. Still am. I still going to see Phil a lot, but yeah.
Well, we had the Renaissance down there too, at various places. The Book and Record Store, which was just great to have growing up. Neil, can't remember his name, ran the place. Peter Bynema worked there. I remember buying the Cream albums as they came out. I bought the first Todd Rundgren solo album, run there.
Yeah.
Eric Clapton's first solo album came out. Funny the things that stick.
It is, and it's funny where life takes you. So you're a young guy buying the first Todd Rundgren album, and then years later you're working with the guy.
Yeah, funny thing, Careful what you wish for.
Well, how did that all come about? How did the journey take you to...
Oh, gosh. Well, we're talking when I was growing up in Bethlehem, and the Silver Nut was still open in the arcade, and I was a young little pup, 12, telling people I was 13. I was always a year older than I was in reality, so I could hang out with the older guys a little bit, And I just met up with local musicians in Bethlehem over time. I got really hooked by the sound of the guitar versus the image of the guitar and the look of the guitar really early on. I think my first records were probably music from The Man from U.N.C.L.E. by Hugo Montenegro or Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass album. And anything that had this kind of spy guitar sound, 12-string, twangy guitar sound, walk, don't run, but the Herb Alpert version, not the Ventures. I didn't even know about the Ventures. And so that sound just really got to me, and I really started bugging my parents to buy me a guitar. You won't stick with it, it won't last, and blah, blah. And I bugged them for a year and a half, and finally with Christmas, they did one of those Christmas story, BB gun things. The Christmas Story movie that they, run every year with the once his Red Ryder BB gun. Well, they did that with the guitar. All the presents were opened already. Another year and no guitar, and then, hey, what's that over there behind the couch? Ooh, a Framus acoustic. So it went from there. I took some lessons at Kempfer's And then I bought a guitar somewhere else, traded it in, like up at Titlow's in Allentown.
Oh, yeah.
Never let me take lessons there anymore because I didn't buy the guitar there. So my lessons kind of fell by the wayside. But I was already involved with, there were great local players. You know, there was a whole, it wasn't a nightclub scene. It was more like a youth center scene built around Illick's Mill in Bethlehem. The late Bob Thompson was, you know, really instrumental in getting that up and running, along with a bunch of students from both Freedom and Liberty High Schools at the time. So that became our Friday, Saturday night spot down in Monocacy Park. And you know, I'm sure lots of people still remember the place.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been refurbished, and they had a few reunions there in the last 6, 7, 8 years, one of which I participated in. But anyway, I met people like Jim Nastasy down there, and his brother Frank was still in Vietnam at the time, but he was this legendary guitar player in the area, and he was coming back from Vietnam, and he made it back safely. And then Frank and Jim and I and various drummers that I grew up with started playing together. Even before that, it was probably me getting together with my pal Andy Johnson, who used to run the Sawyer and Johnson. His family ran Sawyer and Johnson's Florist before it burned down over on Laurel Street. And they had like an outbuilding that his mom and dad let us set up his drums and my guitar, so we had a duo. Like, it was like White Stripes, or pre-staged the White Stripes by 40 years, guitar and drums. We didn't even sing, just thrashed around. But anyway, that's like the earliest stuff. And then, you know, playing wherever I could. There was a little coffee house at Moravian College called the Season of the Witch.
Oh, nice.
Building. And I would sneak into there. I'm like 13, you know, but it's like, no, I'm 14. I think a big turning point for me, too, was going to the original Woodstock Festival when I was 13.
Oh, my God, really?
My dad actually enabled that,
Wow.
probably much to his later regret. But
He took
I bugged him for like a long time to go to the Atlantic City Pop Festival, which it was earlier that summer or spring. And I wasn't allowed to go. I was too young. I had to go on a family trip. There was all these reasons I couldn't go. So I must have made his life so miserable for the next couple of months. He brings home an ad from the New York Times from his office, which he never read the New York Times, so somebody must have given it to him, perhaps his assistant there. And he said, maybe your sister can take you and a couple friends to this. And,
yeah, little pop festival up in upstate New York.
Yeah, a little pop festival. You know, that was pretty life-changing at first, I got to admit. Although I had to get back, and I didn't get to see Jimi Hendrix. But I did get to, you know, I got separated from all my friends I went with. Let me see, I think I went with Pete Mikesell. There was this gang of guys that lived across the street from Andy Johnson on Laurel Street. Al Sotak, who's probably a retired Allentown policeman at this point. Dan Lee, who was a Bethlehem policeman. All these guys became policemen.
Yeah, all your hippie friends turned into
Pete Mikesell, like I said, Denny Hudak, the Hudak brothers.
Yeah.
There was another, Steve Hudak was a great drummer that played with the Nastasy brothers too. So anyway, jumping to starting to play with the Nastasy brothers, that's what really got me out and playing. And they steered me well. You know, I had good ears. I could recognize really great guitar playing, like Eric Clapton at the time. All that was just kind of happening. You know, Cream was happening, and Hendrix, and the earliest formation of Led Zeppelin, and, you know, just amazing time in music, particularly for guitar playing. And Todd fit in there. Todd Rundgren was, to me, he was like the Eric Clapton of the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely.
R. Clapton. He played really great guitar on those early Nas records and all the way through. So I just became really fond of his music over the years. And, you know, sometimes I get mistaken because there's certain physical resemblance between us. So it's always been a funny thing, because I think the first time I even heard about Todd's music in the Nas was I was 12 or something and hanging out in the Silver Nut, and there was some cute hippie girl in there, she was 17 or something, and she goes, "Hey, you look like Todd Rundgren." I go, "Who's that?"